Our next session is Rob Skaljin. Rob is currently the Senior Technology Partner Manager and leads the Conversational AI and Omnichannel Strategy team with Channels Technology Solutions at TD Bank and is based out of Toronto, Ontario. Rob is started with TD Group in 1991, and over the course of his career, Rob's focus has been delivering technology solutions for the bank's retail, corporate, wealth, insurance, credit card, human resources, and digital channel partners areas. In his current role, Rob is focused on delivering legendary chatbot experiences, as well as guiding the organization to better understand the conversational AI space and in defining a chatbot conversation management strategy for the bank. So Rob, welcome.
Hey, Jeff. So let's roll. Thanks for the introduction, Jeff. My name is Rob Skaljin. I've been with TD Bank for a number of years. For those of you that are not familiar with TD Bank, we're headquartered here in Toronto, Canada. We do have obviously a very large presence here in Canada, but as well, we also have offices around the world, and also particularly on the eastern seaboard of the U.S. as well, through a bunch of mergers and acquisitions we had in the early 2000s. So it's always great to go down to the States and see the TD Bank logo down there as well too. I got involved with chatbots a couple of years ago. It was sort of the next kind of journey in my career in terms of what do I want to do next at the bank. At the time, talk about chatbots and AI was quite a bit of a buzzword. And 2 years later, still definitely an interesting space to be in, and quite the hot topic, particularly I would say, over the last year with COVID-19 and all of the lockdowns. It is actually helping write a lot of the business cases for the chatbot work where we've been doing. So obviously, when I got started into it, the first couple of weeks felt a little bit like this picture here. Chatbots, everybody wanted them. The question was, well, where do we do? What do we do? What technology platforms do we use? What are the right use cases? All those types of conversations came up. One of the things that I think was a pretty big theme when I first got into the space was that there were a lot of vendors, and 2 years later, I think Gartner is telling me there's about 2,000 plus conversational AI vendors in this space. A lot of the impressions, especially for non-technology folks, made it feel very much like it was Terminator 2 Skynet technology, which as you can see from some of the other previous presenters, it is not. It does require for you to train the bot and monitor it and help it to grow and learn to be better with the use cases that you train it on. Our first foray 2 years ago into the chatbot space was our Clari chatbot, and basically we integrated this with our Canadian mobile app. Clari does the simple things like greets you, asks you how it can help you. It can answer general FAQs. We did decide to take it up a level for our first launch. We did integrate it with some of our back-end systems to kind of create a more personalized experience. So people can ask questions like, how much did I spend in January? You can do things like transfer from not transfer. You can check the balances on your accounts. You can also look at things like spending categories. So one of the other things we kind of attached our chatbot to was a My Spend app that we had built, which basically we were able to aggregate customers' data, and we kind of sort of call it a bit of our Fitbit for finance. So we have all of these interesting insights about our customers and their spending habits that is actually accessible through our Clari chatbot. Now, in terms of sort of the TD Bank kind of mindset and where we want to do and where we want to go next, we're very into kind of creating these legendary experiences for our customers. You can see from some of the campaigns. And about 2 years ago, we also purchased a company called Layer 6, which is an AI company that we've actually been leveraged to look at our customer data and look at opportunities in terms of how we can help our customers. And some of the things that we find with our customers is that they do need a lot of assistance. And, you can see from some of these ads, just even people figuring out their retirement goals and their financial needs, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of people that have a lot of questions. Again, here's sort of another example, and in terms of an ad campaign that we ran through some of our through actually our union station here in Toronto. Now, the other kind of interesting thing from a TD perspective, and what I would say this is sort of pre-COVID days, is that from a digital perspective, we've made a huge investment over the last 2 years. We're one of the top digital banks in North America. 80% of our transactions are performed digitally. But one interesting fact was that, about 70% of our customers still would go into a branch, even if they had done some kind of digital transaction in that last 90 days. So, having those interactions with humans is still very important to our customers. And that can, again, fall into some of those, aspects of, I'm applying for a mortgage. I'm also looking out for my financial goals, my financial needs, that type of thing. Now, what I'd also say is, since COVID's actually been implemented, one of the other kind of aspects to this around personalization is that our call centers have been inundated. So those voice interactions have become, even more important. We've identified that there's a lot of use cases, and now with things like the lockdown, customers haven't been able to either or felt comfortable going out into the branches. We've actually reduced our store hours. So it's really driven a lot of volume to our call centers. So we're actually also going through a process right now of revamping our contact centers and looking at conversational AI or conversational IVR as a way to help assist our customers through the call center. Because as you can see, with that sort of shift with COVID, our call center wait times have gone up quite a lot. So here's where my team comes in, and we've been looking at different chatbot use cases, and one of the sort of the kind of 4 key areas that we want to look at is we want to create connected experiences for our customers. We want our solutions to be something that suits their lifestyle, that is part of their lives. We want to do this from a trust standpoint, so that they know that the questions and conversations they're having with us are confidential. And we also want to make sure that the responses we're giving to them are accurate and that they can trust those. And then the 4th part is the technology side of things. And are we leveraging the right technologies? Where's this space going? Again, I go back to the 2,000 vendors out there, and if we are quickly getting into dozens of chatbots that we've deployed. Do we want dozens of technologies out there? We want to try and streamline that and pick what we feel are the kind of the best bets when it comes to technology. So, again, from a conversational AI perspective, being at the center of the enterprise, we want to make sure that whether it's our customers or our advisors or employees, that they can all access these different areas of expertise. And we're looking at building out chatbots, basically as, specific skills, domains of knowledge. We want obviously to be able to connect those chatbots into our enterprise systems to provide more information to the customer and make it more personal. Likewise, the same thing on the employee side as well too. So, that's one thing that I would say is kind of key is customers are definitely important, but having the tools that assist our employees to help our customers as well are also very important as well. Again, I touched a little bit about on sort of AI maturity progression, where we are. We are doing general assist type chatbot use case scenarios where we're just answering general FAQs. We have, like I did through the Clari example, we are doing things like customer specific questions that we can ask that are, unique to the customer. I see ourselves over the next year to 2 years doing a lot more of that, particularly as we revamp our cost centers. And then there's the other part around the advice level, where we hope to get to. We did do a little bit of a proof of concept with our TD Insurance side of things with a chatbot that actually can determine fault based on legislation here in Canada. So every province in Canada has a slightly different legislation. there, and you can basically describe an accident to the bot, and it will give that result back to the advisor to say how you would determine fault in that type of an accident scenario. As well. But we do definitely want to do more stuff around, things like around investing, and again, leverage some of the data that we've got from layer 6 in terms of what might be in the best interest of our customers. So going back to kind of the technology, and we went through a very deep dive and looked under the hood of both, existing technologies we're using and technologies, conversational AI platforms that we were thinking about using. We kind of looked and evaluated each of those bot platforms into kind of 5 categories. The first one kind of being what we call the brain, and how strong is that natural language processing. I think every one of the speakers have touched a little bit about on, the importance of, training your bot, and it's something that, you have to put some effort into. One of the things that we've seen is that, bot platforms and their NLP capabilities, some require less training, others don't. And I think that was a key important part to us, because one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that we could, basically put out these bots as quickly as possible. The other part goes into around enabling our business to actually update and maintain the bots. So again, we were looking for bot platforms where you necessarily don't have to be a data scientist to leverage them. And things that as well, like things like a sentiment analysis is also another feature that we were looking at. So again, if the conversation is going down a bad path, that's a great opportunity to then say, well, let's maybe escalate that to an agent. So that's sort of what I would kind of cover off on in the brain area. The tool set, we looked at a few things. Does it support multiple channels? So web, mobile, text, social media. Does it interface with agent chat platforms? That type of thing. What type of analytics are coming out of the platform that we can gain insights into how the bot is performing? So again, these are really important from how we work with our business partners in terms of helping them to identify. And I think this is one of the great things about chatbots is it's not that it's just answering the questions that you've trained it on, it's also giving you insights into what people are asking that the bot isn't trained on. So it gives you that sort of idea of where you want to kind of tackle next. And having the proper information presented to you in an easy way was something that we were looking for in these platforms. And again, we've actually had success, particularly on the Watson platform, where we've actually been able to take folks who are on the call center answering phone calls, and actually giving them a couple of weeks of training to where they're actually been able to maintain the bot themselves, and maintain dialogue flows and add new FAQs and all that sort of thing. So again, empowering the business so that they don't have to be reliant on technology, beyond, let's say, doing the initial, setup of the bot, but something they can maintain going forward. And then the only other place I would say where, you're still going to need technology involved is where you've got to do some of those back-end integration. We looked at what kind of deployment options we had with the bank, depending on where you are with an organization. We've obviously, as an organization, made a lot more moves into the cloud space and leveraging things like AWS and Google, whereas we weren't there necessarily a couple of years ago. But again, something for everyone that you should have take into consideration in terms of where you are. We also looked at the vendor strength and did they have an existing relationship with us, what their reputation was out there in the industry, what their roadmaps are like, what are they looking at in terms of what the next phase of conversational AI is going to be, and are they leaders in that space? And then obviously the cost standpoint. And one thing we saw is that there were some very big differences in costs, per conversation between the vendors. So this kind of helped us make some decisions in terms of where we're looking to play over the foreseeable future. The next kind of concept that we're looking at and is going to be in particular with the contact center that we're going to be implementing is this idea of conversation management. So if we talk to the fact that we're going to be building out bots, and when I look at bots, you're building them out as specific skills, or as a specific skill that has a set of related intents. So that could be, let's say, from an insurance perspective, like a claims bot, right? But insurance may have a claims bot for taking in claims. It may have a policy bot that's going to update policy information, and it may have a general FAQ bot. So, the reason why we're separating those bots into separate bots instead of creating one mega bot is there are limitations on some of the platforms that when you start getting into more intense, it does become more difficult to manage. But then the other side, from an operational standpoint, if you want to make updates to general FAQs for insurance, you can do that more surgically, right? And you don't have to worry about the fact that you're necessarily changing the model on the claims bot or the policy update bot. So that's sort of another way why we're organizing bots into these different domains, but then we need a way to bring these together. And, we're partnering with a company called Genesis, which has a platform that allows us to do this integration. One of the things that you can do is you can plug in multiple bots into here. It doesn't really even matter what the bot platform is. You could be building, some of these bots could be on Google, they could be on Lewis, they could be on Watson, they could be on another vendor. There's an ability to integrate them in there. What that conversation manager does is it serves almost as a concierge. So if I come in through, regardless of the channel, through a virtual assistant device or my mobile app, and I ask something like, let's say I've lost my credit card. The idea is the conversation manager doesn't necessarily know how to replace your lost credit card, but it does know the bot that it should route that to. So the idea of the conversation manager will route that bot to the conversation. You can complete your activity in terms of requesting a new credit card. And then the other side of it is that things like sentiment analysis and that sort of thing could come into play. Or if you request an agent, the conversation manager is intelligent enough to say, you know what, I need someone to intervene. We'll hand that off to an agent. And not only when I hand that off to an agent, I'm going to hand the context of that entire conversation off to the agent, so the agent knows from a starting point what this customer has gone through, and they don't need to ask that question again. So, and again, the idea is that these bots are also intelligent enough to respond based on the channel. So if someone's calling in through, obviously the IVR system, and they're talking through voice, we have to have a step in there where we're going to be doing speech to text conversion. But when it gets to the bot, it's important that the bot knows what the channel is that it's coming from. If I'm coming in from my desktop, I may be in some scenarios want to respond with a link. If I know they're coming in through a call center, I may prompt them and say, would you like me to text you a link? So again, all of these sorts of things are coming into the design, but also what we're trying to achieve through this, through what we're calling conversation management and uniting the bots. So we're on this journey, and what I'd say is we've been primarily focused on this assist level type journey, where I think the majority of our bots have been built. Over the next 2 years, you're going to see us spending a lot of time on the self-serve side of things. And this is where we're looking at, again, integrating more of our chatbots with our backends, plugging in our conversation manager so that we can enable this from an Omni perspective and make it multi-channel. And then the other side, on the bot side of things, the idea is that, our goal is to have, not to have same intents across multiple bots, but again, going back to the picture here, the idea is that the knowledge stays in one bot and it can be leveraged by multiple channels and multiple lines of businesses. The other thing, I'll say is kind of really important that we've learned, in terms of when you're building your bot out and what the process is, and I call it the art of the conversation, right? And we've kind of grouped this sort of into 4 kind of areas. And, the first thing that we do with all of our business areas is, we look and try to understand what the chatbot purpose is. What are the type of user journeys that they want to accomplish with this? And again, what are the success criteria? What would we say that if we launch this bot, we would consider success? And then we go into basically dialogue, what we call dialogue design. And this is really taking those user journeys and looking at them from a conversational perspective. And one of the things that's really important to note is that, a lot of people start off with chatbots, and they'll start off with, you know, a general FAQ page, and they'll convert that into a chatbot. And I'd say, yeah, you can do that, but when you really sit down, and what we've seen is when people get into the, well, if someone was actually having a conversation with someone, how would the conversation really go? And one example would be something like, if I said, I want to open an account. Well, you know, a general FAQ might give you an explanation on how to open 4 different types of accounts. But from a chatbot's perspective, you got a lot more power there. You can actually get some clarification from the user and ask them, well, what type of account are you looking at? And that way, I'm not, you know, responding back to them with a huge response. I'm actually responding back to them in such a way that it's really exact to what they're asking for. So these are a lot of things that we, you know, drive out as part of the, you know, what the conversation flow should look like. You know, the other side of it too is there's a lot of things in terms of UI interactions and how you want to do it. You can leverage things like bubbles, and, you know, and allow people to click through things rather than them having to type it or say it. You know, so again, these are all part of the design. Then the next part is, you know, once you've done that, design is building out, you know, your dialogue flows and your intents. The other part is, you know, in order for these intents to work well, you do need to do, you know, things like sourcing of utterances against those intents. We've actually done had some really great success in doing bot bashes, you know, where we actually get 50 people that actually will bash the bot for an hour, and actually has been a great way for us to source utterances and get our bot, you know, to a better state before we launch it into a pilot or production. And then the last part is really around launching and going live. You know, you should definitely consider things around, you know, maybe doing a pilot or a soft launch, because again, every time you start exposing your bot to a new set of people, you know, obviously training it internally, you've got a lot of people that are going to be experts on the subject matter, right? And they may be a little bit sort of, you know, blind to maybe some of the other unique ways customers might be asking for it. So doing sort of a pilot soft launch has also been very helpful before we kind of release it out to a larger group. And the thing is, you really need to do this in an iterative process and tune the bot. I always describe, you know, bots as kind of like having a baby. You know, we don't just have the kid and then walk away. Hopefully none of us do that. But the idea is that you do want to make sure that from a bot perspective, you have a day 2 process that's there, that you can take a look at the bot, you see how it's performing. You know, from our side of things, we've made sure that from a technology and a business perspective, we've have the folks that are there that can do the annotation, look at the analytics, see where we've got opportunities, and that really kind of helps just kind of drive this sort of continuous improvement practice of analyzing, you know, making changes, tuning, testing, releasing that, and then repeating that all over again. So, kind of in summary, you know, I think,
hey, Rob, we gotta stop it there. You're on a roll.
Sure.
And I've got my own questions, and there's some questions
Okay.
in the Q&A that you might want to take a look at. Razvan
Sure.
does have a question for you. I had some, but you were on a roll. I didn't want to stop you.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I could go on.
No, I know you could. I know you had mentioned that last time we talked. Not a problem. Just very, very quickly, I've got one. See if we can get this. It might be we can do it quickly. You mentioned determining fault.
Yeah.
In access. It's not the who's at fault. It's the is it how to determine who's at fault?
Yeah, how to determine who's at fault. So, you know, if basically so basically in Canada, I'm not sure if in the US, but we have sort of no fault insurance, right? Where the insurance companies will settle between themselves how to split the cost in an accident scenario, right? So the idea here is that depending on the accident scenario, the parties involved will all be assessed a percentage of fault. In that accident scenario. So that's how they'll kind of split the costs. So in some cases, someone may be 100% in fault, and that insurance company would have to cover the costs of paying for damages. In other scenarios, it may be split differently. And that there's different legislation between the different provinces here in Canada on how that fault is assessed. So, And that's actually a good example of something, because that's sort of, we've actually put a patent in for that. We filed a patent for that because, again, it's something that really applies to anyone in the insurance industry here in Canada.
Gotcha. Got it. Excellent. Thank you so much, Rob. Good hearing from you. Thank you.